Welcome back. Here's Ed Lovely Scene from the Depths on another episode of tutorials or something. I'm gonna figure out a better title for this. So this is the tutorial for creating cannons. What we're gonna do is load up Carl again and create his pelvic cannon. You're gonna see that he already has one, but we're gonna redesign it, particularly because there's a little bit different system I'd like to show you. So first things first, let's get Carl up in the air. Easiest thing to do is, if you forget to click load into driver's seat, is to just go into build mode and find the driver's seat. You can even do this during the campaign. It saves a lot of trouble, particularly if you didn't put doors in your creation. So one thing I like to do is get rid of the HUD. It lets you see exactly what everything looks like without so much clutter. Particularly when you're building, this is nice. To do this, you hit F9. So let's take a look at Carl. First things first, you can see that he's got a cannon down by his crotch. This crotch cannon is not particularly powerful. We're going to build a better one. So first things first, you can see the cannon can swivel back and forth, up and down. Though that is not, it cannot swivel in a 360-degree direction because we are using a 180-degree turret. And this is on purpose because what it'll try to do is swivel all the way around, which will then cause the cannon to hit the legs or try to clip into the legs, which causes some problems later on. So let's go ahead and edit this cannon. So we're going to delete all the pieces. One thing to note is that you should never delete something from the turret, because those pieces may very well fall and get stuck. That's actually what happened previous to this, and so I had to restart. And it can be kind of frustrating because there's no way to remove those pieces. So you can see that one piece fell and that was fine. So here we've got so now we've deleted the turret. So we're going to go down between Carl's legs and install his pelvic cannon because Carl feels inadequate without it. So first things first, we're going to go constructibles. You got a 360-degree turret. And then at this point you can choose from different turrets. We've chosen a 180-degree turret for the reasons I said earlier. We don't want it clipping into the legs. So it will start out facing whatever direction you had the arrow pointing. So you would like it pointing forward, ideally. So custom cannons, you start out with the firing piece always, unless you want the cannon to be built upon another block, in which case you'd build a block under it. So these are the different kinds of barrels. You want to usually start out with a motor-driven barrel. It saves you some time and allows the cannon to go up and down a little bit more easily. And then you can attach other kinds of barrels. One thing to note is that if you use a 6-way connector, this is the best connector as it allows you to attach things from all sides. But if you are putting cannons close to each other, you do not want to use a 6-way connector often, because this will result in cannons stealing parts from each other, which can be frustrating because then you don't know which cannon is benefiting from which part. So this is a screen that allows you to see the stats on the camera on the cannon itself. I'm currently have the HUD turned off so you can't see it. I'll turn it on in a moment. Autoloaders allow the cannon to load ammo faster. The more of these you have, along with more ammo crates attached to the cannon, the more of these you have along with more ammo boxes attached to the cannon, the faster it will load, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. So this allows you to see how fast the cannon is loading, how much damage it does. Currently doesn't do any damage and has an innate amount of armor piercing, which is 3. So you can see you can attach ammo boxes to either side. And then we can attach explosive warheads, which then increase the damage that the cannon will do and will cause the ammo to explode. So you can see now the damage that it does. So one of the key pieces of a cannon is a predictor if you're firing the cannon yourself. This allows you to see where the cannon shots are going to land. Granted, often when you use AI, you do not need the predictor. And these are gauge increases. Basically, every gauge increase you have increases the size of the barrel, though it does not seem to increase how much it clips into things. So you may see that later. But it does increase the damage. So you can see that the damage is now increased, as well as the load time. So if we want to decrease the amount of time it takes to load something, we can find a place to put more. Oh, yes, and we do not want to put them here. This is bad. If you put a ammo crate below it, it may very well clip into things. You want to ensure that there's space around the cannon for it to turn. So we're going to attach some autoloaders here. The more autoloaders you have, the faster your cannon will reload. So now you can see that the cannon is reloading significantly faster than it was before. This is nice because this allows you to fire more shots more quickly, increases your rate of fire, which is essentially what I said. So one thing to note, you can adjust the amount of force that the cannon exerts upon the object that it's connected to. This is important because if you are in space or even in the water, you can't flip your vehicle with the cannon. You can also see that we're not using a recoilless cannon, and we don't have anything that reduces the recoil, so it causes us to sway because we're floating in the air attached to balloons. So now let's take a look at this cannon and at the different parts that you need exactly to construct it. So first things first, you need the firing piece, then a barrel of any kind. Generally from there, I like to go and attach either an elevation barrel, or if I don't need it, then often I'll just move straight to a 6-way connector to attach other pieces. Interface screen is what the screen that you're looking at now. It's important for you to have one of these, though you can delete it later. Autoloaders make it load faster. Ammo boxes you need in order to load ammo into the cannon itself. These are required. Explosive warheads, and attach explosions. Same with armor-piercing warheads because they're pretty self-explanatory. And the predictor allows, obviously, for you to see where the shot is going to land. One thing to note is that local weapon controllers can be used by the AI to control the cannon. I mean, it's important to know that you need to put the local weapon controller under the turret in order for it to control the cannon, or else it will only be able to control where the cannon fires, not it will only be able to control when the cannon fires, not where and how. So we've loaded up the Volley, which is my fun tester ship. It's nice to test things on the Volley when you are in the air because it has a hard time hitting air targets, but it does allow you to test your weapon because it is fairly durable, and so you can kind of see how many shots it takes to destroy one and how much damage it does. As you can see, my cannon is not particularly accurate. There is another option. I personally prefer on turrets to put missiles. A lot of times it makes it a lot easier to hit things with missiles if you put it on a turret rather than if you just strictly put it directly facing forward or backwards or up or down. So first things first, if you want to do a missile turret, you need to put a 6-way connector. This 6-way connector will allow you to attach the turret objects. This 6-way connector will allow you to attach objects to the turret, and then from there you need to put a missile launch pad. And so one thing to note that the missile controller cannot connect from below, it needs to connect from behind. So you need to put another 6-way connector. So it requires a minimum of 3, though if you want to attach other attachments, it will require more. So this is the missile block. You need a minimum of 3 of these, I believe, to make a functional missile, though mines, I think, only require 2. So I just attached a bunch of them to show you, because Carl is very well endowed. So one thing to note is that if you look here, you cannot control the weapon strictly from marking the turret number 1. You need to mark the controller itself number 1 as well if you want to control it from a marked weapon slot. So here you can see all the pieces of a missile. So you can see short range thrusters, fuel tanks. You need these in order for the missile to maneuver. Every piece is very self-explanatory. Some of them, I'm not sure how well they function currently, but I do know that it's constantly improving. One thing I enjoy putting is safety fuses. This is nice in case the missile gets caught up on you in some way. It won't explode. It's always frustrating to have a missile, your own missile, explode on you. One thing to note is that fragmentation warheads and a few other pieces, like the camera for infrared seekers, allows you to have scroll bars that allow you to control some of the functionality. Often it's easiest just to leave them as they are, but if you like to customize things, this is a great place to look. So fins are required for the missile to control its trajectory. Without fins, the missile is just going to fly directly forward or whatever direction you launched it in. So let's take a look at fragmentation warheads. You can see that you can adjust the angle at which the fragmentation pieces go out. It launches about 50 pieces of shrapnel at whatever object when it explodes. These are nice if you'd like to cause a more area of effect damage rather than just a couple blocks with the explosion does. The explosion does do significant amounts of damage though. Generally you can include both in both if you have a big enough missile, though often smaller missiles you want to include just one. Fuel tanks regulate how long the thrusters can operate. You do need more than one often if you're going to shoot really far distances, but generally one is sufficient if you're just shooting, within line of sight. So one thing to note, that you do want to armor these turrets. I didn't armor the previous cannon because blocks that belong to the cannon subpiece tend to have more armor than the missile subpiece because these are often considered to be inside of some sort of mechanism. You can see, we can look here, that this only has 3 armor. Most missile pieces generally only have 3 armor. That makes them incredibly easy to destroy. I believe they're the same amount as wood. Whereas custom cannons often have 5, and then actually some of the barrels have, I think, up to 10 armor. Which makes them significantly more durable than the missile pieces. And so another thing to look is the different pieces. There is a friend or foe add-on if you're going to have other AI, and there are also staggered fire if you're going to have lots of missiles fire at once and you don't want them to all potentially miss the target. So let's take a look at this missile. We've summoned the volley again, and we're going to show you how much damage this missile actually does, along with a comparison to the simple weapon missiles. The simple weapon missiles do significantly less damage, and the way they fire is completely different. So you can take a look here at all the blocks that are floating up, and it does significant amounts of damage. The one thing to note is that I did make a very long missile, which means it does take a significant time to reload. So you can note that the turret is turning whatever direction my camera is, not relative to whatever the object it's attached to. And you can also note that when it does hit from above, it does significantly more damage than if it hits from below. Now, I believe this is because of the orientation of the fragments that I have from the fragmentation attachment, but I'm not 100% sure if that maybe it also has to do with the way the explosion is automatically aimed. And again, with everything from the depths, you should really just play with it as much as you can. The more you play with it, the more you'll find out different things that you like best. So here is a volley of the simple missiles. One thing to note about these is these can collide with each other in midair and cause significant damage and blow themselves up before they ever hit the target. This is intended, and it keeps you from spamming a million of them. And in all honesty, they're not anywhere near as effective as just using a set of custom missiles. You can see that they just hit things and don't do all that much damage.